doubt in my mind that the passion of these fans is helping drive all of these teams in what is a very close race for qualifying for that knockout stage. But quick shot, don't worry. I am just as confused as you are. I have just as many questions as you do about where the heck was this G2 for the rest of the tournament leading up to this game?
Hibernation, maybe? I mean, we can figure out answers. One thing I'll say is they are learning, and they are very mentally tough in comparison to past G2s at international tournaments.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Frost, this was your dark horse. They finally craft a beautiful, dominant win here. How are you feeling?
Man, you see, I did hardcore research on G2. I watched pretty much all of Europe. I watched the finals, and I was watching the region. I was like, damn, they're super exciting. Like, there's really creative stuff going through. I think they're an incredibly intelligent team. So I was like, I'm actually really on the G2 hype train coming into MSI. And then we kind of had to pump the brakes. We hit a couple speed bumps. We're swerving all over the road. But we found it. We're on the right track.
Absolutely. We're now in the carpool lane, cruising at a nice speed here for G2. But it all comes back to the early game. The questions we had around the early game, we saw them put together a decent one against SKT, not against anyone else. But here we go. What a beautiful early game.
And it was a very delayed introduction of Trick into the early game, into this tournament in many ways as well. Finally goes for that very fast gank. We confirmed that it was an experienced Quinn that allowed him to go from Raptors Red into Scuttle Crab into the gank down bottom lane, and it was an adaptation that just wasn't at all like he'd been playing recently, and in general for G2. So late game focused, so many games in a row, and surprising to see them so quickly adapt way back to their older style.
And that's the thing. If you're going to play late game well, it doesn't mean you can't play early game aggressively. So experienced Quint, planning the gank, and helping out Zven before 4 items so he can still do well. I mean, it translated to the rest of the map, the amount of pressure they're able to generate with that game.
And I love your point, because you look at the draft, and it's very G2-esque for the previous games. There still was Orianna. Twitch takes time to come online. I looked at it and I'm like, okay, we're going 35 minutes, we're going 40 minutes, and then Trick threw that playbook out, and everyone played to amplify him. So you can see why it's kind of the heart and soul of this team, especially in the early game.
I'm getting word that perhaps he didn't have an experienced Quinn.
Hey, I'll fight that. I checked all esports during the game, and it showed he had
so
it. Not to mention,
we're going to get some clarification on that, but in the meantime, regardless, the thought process was there, as was mentioned. And, hey, when we were watching Champs Select, right at the beginning, we're like, Ivern's open. That should be the go-to pick. But I do like the confidence to go for the Graves and then play it in that aggressive fashion, even in a comp that would be happy to scale a little bit too late. Frost, back to you.
Exactly. It's the one thing that would then speed up that composition. If you go for the Ivern, yeah, he can make early game plays, but if you look at the rest of your assets there, you've got, hyper carry in the bottom lane, you've got the Shen in the top lane. Like, Ivern, he's not going to be great at snowballing yet. The Graves is the guy who's going to be that bridge from early mid-game.
All right, so now I want to push us through the rest of the early game, because it wasn't just that one gank, right? We saw 16 kills put together for G2 throughout the course of the game, but a lot of them came early.
I've seen this angle of gank before, but it's because they've hit level 6 on Expect. They immediately utilize the Shen, and credit to Expect right there for having the lane pressure in order to make up that play and not allowed to be disrupted by the Kled in any way.
But Expect, and Trick in particular, is leading these plays. As you can see, it's just a different Trick, not defensively on Nunu, not on the Ivern either, and the Korean duo just approaching from different angles on the same page in a way we haven't seen in the first 5 games.
And it's just lovely to see Trick kind of return to his domestic form. You know, domestically, he was known for his creative pathing, his ability to work with his laners, and particularly perks around that mid lane. Yeah, it started out in the bottom lane, but it's nice to see him kind of return to that old form.
Yeah, and the way that they didn't take bad trades once they were ahead and continued to do good things. First game of the tournament, they had a 2,000 gold lead, and then they traded Rift Herald for 2 turrets of their own, which was terrible. In this game, they did none of that. They didn't give away any turrets. They were finding the 90-10 plays without having to give up anything. This was really the quintessential game that G2 fans wanted to see.
And then it forces Flash Wolves into these really awkward situations where Karsa wants to make something happen on the map. He ends up trying to force that gank top lane, and he has to do that because there's no other options for him anywhere else.
Yeah, you say they didn't have to take bad trades. In fact, they forced Flash Wolves into bad situations. Let's take a look at this. 14:30 Flash Wolves top lane dive here. Frost, walk me through it.
And again, just look at the rest of the map right here. Like, Karsa, this is so forced, and it's because it is. He has no other options. He can't gank for his Vladimir because it's the Vladimir he's already shoved into inner tower, and he can't gank for his bot lane because what bot lane? It doesn't exist anymore. It's just roaming around on the map trying to find any sort of extra gold. And then Perk shows up and is like, you're not supposed to be here, and I'm going to pick up the double kill anyway.
Yeah, the classic shockwaveless double kill. But we've heaped a bunch of praise on G2, and I do now kind of got to move to Flash Wolves because I was hyping them up before the tournament.
We all
thought they were going to be the #2 seed, but the problems they are still showing weakness in the top lane, weakness in the bottom lane. NL and Betty, if you turn the nameplate off, I'd feel like they'd be the same player, and he was supposed to be an upgrade. It's still feeling like this is a Maple Karsa team. And Maple got targeted in the ban phase pretty heavily during this game. So I'm not sold on this Flash Wolves because it doesn't seem like they've actually improved since the last time they failed to make it at a group stage at Worlds.
And when Trick had the pressure on Karsa, when he was getting the ganks off, trade became a dirty word because it was a single kill. No turrets, no Drakes, nothing doing for Flash Wolves once Trick had control of the jungle match.
Struggles for Flash Wolves continue, but G2, this is going to be a big win and some momentum for them moving forward through the tournament. Time now for us to throw it down to Shox, who's standing by with G2's support. So let's catch up on stage.
Thank you very much, guys. Indeed, standing by here with Mithy after the most convincing victory of the group stage of the entire MSI, which is quite a surprise seeing what happened earlier in the day. So I just wanted to ask you kind of how you've lived through this day and rebounded from that TSM loss and converting it into such an amazing game here.
Well, honestly, the TSM loss really sucked a bit. I thought it was really lost after early game, and then we managed to hold, and it was so close for us to win. I think if any small thing would have changed, we probably could have won that game. So we tried to like just shake it off and be like, well, if we were 8k down and we still made TSM fight until 1 HP next to us, you know, then we actually played a good game, and it just sucks that we can only play one game against them in a row, you know. So we just focused on the next game, talked for like the two post games about draft, and we ended up having a good draft for today for this game, and yeah, pulled it through.
Yeah, you guys pulled it through. It was very convincing. So, but that is then, of course, the big question when we're looking at G2 playing here so far. It's been quite up and down, and it's been a lot of games where you're kind of coming back. So why do you think it is that the stability isn't quite there yet?
Well, we have only won early game against SKT, which we sucked really hard and made their own decisions. And obviously SKT is SKT, so they also did very well, and we failed. But other than that, we've lost every early game in this tournament, and we've managed to get some wins anyway. So yeah, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose the early game. It's all about how you play as a team and how you can like come back from a deficit. And I think we have not been playing perfect, but we have been doing all right. And yeah, we gave a challenge to TSM. We won a game against Flash Wolves when we were like pretty far behind. So we were just been chipping in wins, and now we actually got one early game that was on our favor, and it kind of showed that we were also good at snowballing games.
Yeah, it did. You showed a little bit of everything, and I know obviously with the history of G2, you are one of the players that has taken that all very much to heart. You've also spoken to kind of the fandom here and how much positive energy everything is giving you. Can you kind of explain what it is, what's in the air here, and how it lifts your spirits?
I don't know. Being in EU and just playing there is so much different to being here. It's like when you're there, there's the fans that cheer for other teams. They even boo you in EU, and it just feels so much different than being here. Here, I was playing the game right now. Basically, before I even go on stage, everyone is cheering for me. When I leave the stage, everyone is cheering for me, win or lose. And then while I'm on stage, like this game we were winning, right? And I check the crowd for a second, and I see like lights all over my like our team names being chanted. It's amazing. I mean, thank you guys. You're fucking awesome.
They can't hear you, but they've seen you and they've been cheering for you, so I'm sure they get the message. But thank you very much, Mithy. Congratulations on this victory. We were looking forward to what G2 can show us next, but we are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's SKT up versus the Gigabyte Marines.